Man, now that the village is saved, I'm totally gonna miss doing this. Hello there, friends, and welcome back to more Bravely Default. Last time, we fought the 7 deadly sins that were plaguing Narende Village. They are the super bosses of this game, and we got to showcase a few crazy strategies against them, though they definitely still put up a fight. This time, we are going to be going through the entire game again, with some things that I missed, and with the context of the full game now within our heads. The main game now has a few extra things that kind of spice up a second playthrough, even if there's not really a whole lot of content. So, we should go ahead and give our quick farewells to this main save file, and I will see you at the title screen. So, for this playthrough file, before we even start New Game Plus, I reached 127 hours, 48 minutes, and 15 seconds on this file. Now, even if you remove about 20 hours of that, which was me going around finding random abilities or just kind of sitting around waiting for Narende Village to finish, this is still roughly 100 hours of content for this base game. This is not even including the Nemesis battles or what we're about to do. This is insane. This game has a lot of content, and going into New Game Plus, we're gonna see just a little bit more. There isn't anything that is exclusive to New Game Plus outside of a few new features. No new modes or battles or whatnot, but New Game Plus does allow you to not only grab treasure from treasure chests again, but also will allow you to see certain scenarios that you might not have seen on your first go-through, which is exactly what I'll be showing. So, I think there's nothing really else to do other than to begin New Game Plus. So, when you open up New Game Plus, you're able to transfer a lot of things over. Character name. So, this is mostly pertaining to the fact that you could change your character's written name with the Fox in Grandship. Again, this does not change the voice acting of the game or anything like that. It just changes what name shows up on the menus and screens of the game for characters. If you did any changes or whatnot, this will be transferred over. Level's pretty self-explanatory. Job level's pretty self-explanatory. You still get the job cutscenes whenever you acquire a new asterisk, even if you do have that job on your file. But you have the job, you have access to everything that goes with that job, except for if you want to take off the job level for any reason. This is kind of a pretty cool way of going through the game with a completely new context. If you were to get rid of your levels, but keep the job and remove the job levels, you can start the game with every single job and play through it in a very unique way. Your money will carry over, your items will carry over. Again, you can remove any of these, you can move them however you want. Your items will carry over, your genome abilities will carry over, your Narende Village population will carry over, their status will carry over, so the progress of each village. If you remove this, then you will have to build up every town again. Dee's Journal, anything that you have in Dee's Journal will carry over. Again, you can remove this, which means Alternus' Journal will be going away and whatnot. Special moves can carry over. Playtime, friends, guests. There's a lot you can do here. I'll be bringing everything over, though. You can also change the difficulty. I guess, even though most of this, if not the entire game, is going to be kind of a breeze, I'll go ahead and put it on hard mode. And no, autosave's evil. Evil, evil, evil. And then you can decide what save file you want your New Game Plus to go to. For the sake of consistency, I'm actually going to go ahead and overwrite my current base game file. I'll be going through the entire game again, so don't worry, it's not like I'm going to be losing all that much. So at the start of the game, you get access to this pre-rendered cutscene again. Due to how the 3DS screen is, it's pretty blurry, even whenever I try to, expand it. This cutscene is pretty interesting. If you look at this fairy's wings, this is Aeries' sister, she has the -1 symbol on her wings. There's concept art of her wings in Bravely Default art books, But other than this cutscene and the very, very end cutscene, the -1 wings also appear in a non-canon book called The Pocketbook of R. So there's a bit of a connection between those two, but it's not really all that important. Starting with this cutscene here, I really like this introduction. This is right after the AR movie where Agnes falls into the ground, the angel, and you kind of get to see the introduction of each character. I like this stuff a lot. The pre-rendered cutscenes, I'm a little sad there aren't more of them as the game progresses. Maybe for like major scenes or whatnot, but for what we get, this was pretty cool. It kind of gives you a nice teaser of every single character. Man, the shot of the crystal and everything is so cool. Oh man. Ring a bell! There he is, dude! There he is! Oh, this looks really cool in this pre-rendered cutscene format. It shows the real scale of the city that we don't really get to see with the artwork very well. So, I like this. It's a little sad that we didn't get to see this tavern in-game, because this is definitely not the inn that we commonly hang out in. So, it's a little sad that we don't get to see this building, but whatever. It's not that big of a deal. It is funny that every single woman that is laughing over there is actually blonde-haired, which Edea is mentioned quite often in the D's Journal to have blonde hair, so obviously Ring a Bell would have a natural attraction to blonde-haired women and would go after them. It's pretty... go after is probably not the best word. He would be naturally attracted to them because they resemble the girl that is in the book that he is so obsessed with. This scene's pretty cool. Edea forgot to default right there and broke her weapon. I'm so glad weapon durability is not a thing in this game.
This is your finest blade. Issei no Kami.
Finest blade my ass. Bro, it has 20 power and sells for 500 pig. Man, Kamizumi was really expecting you to fail. The weapon he's using in his battle is way better. Yeah, finest blade my ass. The hair color of Tiz changes quite often. In-game and a lot of artwork, and what it seems that they kind of stuck with for sequels and whatnot was he has gray hair. But in pre-rendered cutscenes like this, he kind of has more brown hair. And there's certain artwork, especially with like the Dimensional Officer and whatnot, that also depicts him having brown hair. There really isn't a reason for him to have brown hair, but it seems like that was something they were planning on having earlier and just didn't change it for later releases or whatnot. Or maybe it was just an art style choice for those specific art pieces and this cutscene. Maybe gray hair just didn't work very well. Oh, by the way, meanwhile, on screen, the death of thousands of people but while I'm talking about Tiz's hair. But we're finally out of that. We can begin the game again on the precipice of despair. Right after Tiz wakes up, he's ready to go. He's already level 99. Yeah. So we start with the stats that we have with Tiz at level 99. However, he begins as a freelancer, as he was at the very, very beginning of our adventure, starting with the dagger and linen cuirass. If you do not have a dagger or linen cuirass in your inventory, the game adds one. So you will always have at least one dagger and one linen cuirass throughout the entire playthrough. I guess... we could switch him around to any of the jobs that we want. But I'm kind of curious to see how a very weak Tiz like this works. I know I pointed this out early on in the playthrough, but you can actually talk to Ring a Bell here at the very beginning before his town burns down. And he talks about the Echelot, so he's already starting to sort of piece things together about his memory, and the Echelot obviously helps with that later down the road. It's kind of a little bit of a teaser. Yeah, the gravestone doesn't say anything here in World 5 if you were wondering. I just wanted to go ahead and point that out. So, as a quick note, features such as the D's Journal and Naranja Village are not immediately available to you even in New Game Plus. You actually do have to unlock them in-game. Also, if you look at the bottom right screen, at the very beginning of the game, before you have access to the Echelot, yeah, the world map only shows Kaldisla. And despite the kind of comparing the entirety of the Kaldis region to the rest of Luxendark, it's kind of insane how big this world really is. Yeah, unfortunately, this battle is always required, even if you haven't, even if you do have random encounters turned off, you are always forced to do this tutorial here. And you are always set to level 1 Tiz with 168 HP and 48 MP. You can never take damage in here, so this is just a fully scripted encounter that is always forced to happen. You still can't speed up in this fight, which really makes me mad. But it's fine. I've played through this game enough to kind of tune out this encounter anyways. A very important aspect of New Game Plus is that treasure chests restock. They still have the same items that they did back in the original playthrough, but this means that you can grab another item from these treasure chests. So if there's an exclusive weapon or piece of armor or something that is only found in a treasure chest in a specific location, and you want another one of them, go through New Game Plus and grab it again. This allows people to have multiple Gungnir's or multiple, Genji equipment and whatnot. It's pretty useful. You made it at last. Yeah. Why are you green? Here. Keep this with you always. Yay! The Bravely second hourglass that I only used once. This is hope, you see. It's from those who care about you. Yay! Bravely Second! So, just real quick, I think I mentioned this before, but Bravely Second was something that was released for the sequel version. It did not exist in the original release of the game. I guess one thing I want to go ahead and mention is the posture of the Eternian Sky Knights. Yeesh! Those helmets must be very heavy, or I don't know. I don't really know what to say about them. Like, their backs are not where they're supposed to be. It's really interesting that Tiz actually does recognize the Eternian airships, despite being from the countryside. He never really went anywhere in his life. He just kind of stayed in Arende. So, anything that has to pertain to Agnes, you get her at this point. You can equip her with anything you want. I guess to make these fights go a little bit faster, I'll just equip, like, a super powerful sword on each of them, and that'll definitely get the job done. My good sir, you have no idea what kind of trouble you just got yourself into. Yeah! Oh my god, I forgot Agnes' freelancer is really low level. She's still getting JP from this.
And I'm Aerie. It's a pleasure.
Look! A miniature monster!
Ah, rude! I am not a miniature monster. I am a Crystberry.
Wrong! Tiz had it called at the very beginning of the game. He said, "Oh, miniature monster," as soon as seeing Aerie. He was not wrong. That's so cool that he called it. Honestly, Aerie's deception is seen pretty early on, especially as soon as the Miracle Man questline, where we get to see Aerie making sure that Agnes brings Tiz along by saying, "Oh, he's the Miracle Man, I'll bet my wings on it." Agnes is obviously pretty apprehensive about taking Tiz along, but Aerie very much forces it upon her because she knows that Agnes can't take care of everything regarding the Harrowing alone. She needs to bring Tiz along, and so she pushes the whole Miracle Man agenda. Now, to be fair, Tiz is very much a miracle. I mean, the Celestial Realm kind of aided in his, him being brought back from death, but still, Aerie had been kind of orchestrating and planning this stuff ahead of time. The Summon Friend tutorial is still here, but there's nothing really interesting to talk about. Actually, that's kind of a lie. Because you use the pendant to communicate with other worlds, the Summon Send Friend feature is actually tied to the finale of the Ouroboros encounter, where we get to see the countless players that you might have interacted with, or just the friends that the game gives you, coming to your aid in your time of need by sending their power to you and you summoning them through the pendant. It's a pretty cool little detail. If we talk to the king, we'll get access to Nerende Village, will be pretty nice. Once we're done with all these cutscenes and whatnot at the very beginning of the game, this will kind of go pretty fast. So yeah, now at this point you have access to Nerende Village, which again is the exact same as it was when you left it. So you'll get gifts, you'll get all the gear here, it's pretty useful. Oh dear, Barris and Holly aren't gonna know what hit them. They messed with the wrong kiddos. Tiz, go ahead and just take them out. Whee! There's one, and there's two. Man, hard mode's so easy.
North of the city.
Yes, a black mage burned down a town. Don't look to the left of Tiz. Please
The
don't.
hostilities will end.
There you go again. Might I interject?
Hey, there he is,
Ah,
dudes!
it's
There's
Mr.
Ring a
Amnesia.
Bell! Alright, the game's
Still in
done.
the empty-
Actually, no, we need a Dia, and then the game's done. But hey, Ring a Bell's joined the party. We get access to the D's Journal, a man of mysteries. Doesn't matter, we already read that party chat. Ring a Bell, my friend. Let's see what we can put on you. How about we go scare Ominous with a taste of his own medicine, huh? We get two black mages in here and see what happens. Ominous, my man, you're seeing triple. Ah, yes, you like fire, don't you? Well, I'll give you fire. I'll give you fire and death. Well, actually, I can give you death. Yeah, there we go. Why not? Sorry, idiot, you're gonna have to sit this one out. The axe clips through her hat. Yay! Wow, the Black Mage Asterisk. Like, I totally need that right now. Oh, that's right. Because I have a complete Nerende, I get all of the party chats right now. No! It is really cool to see how the rotting water from the water crystal not being tended to kind of seeps from the pure clear water of the Kaldis region. It's pretty cool. I don't know if I ever made mention to this in the main series, but I want to go ahead and say this. Every single time Carl, the innkeeper, ever talked in a cutscene, I couldn't ever take him seriously because all I could hear was Kingdom Hearts. You know, because he's Xemnas in Kingdom Hearts. Or Manset. So we just got the tutorial for custom special moves. I guess I never showed that off. So any of these moves that you have here, you can actually change their names. You can actually go down to the bottom screen and change the name of special moves to Edea Big Smash. Obviously, I would probably change every single move to Edea Big Smash, but I'll just do it for one for right now. I guess something I can talk about while I run up to Latano Villa is my opinions on the character Owen, as he is already deceased in World 5 here. I think I am similar to a lot of people that Owen is kind of a forgettable character unless you read the D's journal as you're playing through the game or right after. I'm not gonna mince words here, I kind of forgot who Owen was on my first playthrough. Until I started reading the D's journal, which I didn't really start reading the D's journal until right around late chapter 1. But like I hadn't even known him for very long, and it hadn't been very long since he had died, but I kind of already forgot about him like 5 hours later. But I think the characterization that the D's journal gives him is pretty cool. He's obviously a character that does not really have a good fate in any of the worlds. I mean, he's alive for a few of them, but not a lot of them. So, I mean, I can see why some people forget about him, some people like him, some people don't. But I think he's an okay character. I guess one other thing I'll talk about real quick as I'm going around grabbing all the chests again. The characters in Bravely Default, our main Warriors of Light, are actually somewhat loosely based in terms of their physical appearance. They're somewhat loosely based on the 4 Heroes of Light from Final Fantasy, the 4 Heroes of Light. You can kind of see a bit of a resemblance. Now, in terms of personality, the resemblance is all over the place. The blonde-haired girl in Final Fantasy IV, the 4 Heroes of Light, does not resemble, in terms of personality, does not act at all like the blonde-haired girl from Bravely Default. So, I mean, it's not like you're going to be kind of playing a mirror if you were to go back and play Final Fantasy The Four Heroes of Light. The characters are still their own, they just look fairly similar, thanks to it, again, this game being a spiritual successor of that one. Ah, yes, my old enemy. You do not have the key. Even in New Game Plus, the blue chest key does not carry over, which means these get to taunt you again for an entire playthrough. Don't worry, Heinkel, we're all dressed up as your worst nightmare. A job that has access to lightning magic! Yay. Yes. The 4 black mages of light. I should do a Final Fantasy 1 playthrough with just 4 black mages. Honestly, that kind of idea reminds me a little bit of, there's a series, I don't want to go too much into it because it's not what we're talking about, but there's a funny little web series regarding FF1 that has to do with a certain psychotic black mage that, I don't know, this setup is reminding me a lot of. If you know, you know. Wow, we have the Echelot! That means we can access the entire world, right? No, pretty much everything outside of the small Kaldis region and the Florsheim Sea. All of the water's rotted, which means you can't access any of these ports. So if you try to go over to the Eisenberg port, won't let you land, unfortunately. We have to go to the Florsheim Sea. But hang on, Sage Oyana's water is perfectly okay. We were able to land there and later on in Chapter 1. What if we try to go there early before the game wants us to? Unfortunately, there is an impassable barrier. I am literally holding the right stick as hard as I can, and it will not let me through. I can try going around. Nope. It will not let you land here in the Oyana Woods because narrative. Sit and stare tricks for dogs. I did not understand why the hell they called this Chapter 1 for many years. The reason why they call it that is because the idea that Cammer sees the Vestal as kind of a device to be used to hold over Ansheim, and he wants her to go and do things for him, like, you know, going to Kaldisla to kind of get rid of her, to take over Ansheim and whatnot. It's a pretty interesting thing. He feels like he has command over her and all of Ansheim, and kind of sees them as dogs, but they don't. Sit and stay are tricks for dogs, not for people. I don't know. I don't know if that's the official reason why they call it that. That was just my interpretation of why they call it that. Why the chapter is called Sit and Stay are tricks for dogs. But I mean, there can be multiple interpretations. It's not really that big of a deal. Oh, that's right. You can't continue the main scenario if it's nighttime here. The king can only talk to his people at daytime. While I was waiting for daytime to hit, I went ahead and switched up everyone's jobs except for Tiz, just to give it a little bit more flavor, even though we won't be seeing all that much combat, like, full-on. Sub-scenarios. Yeah, I will actually be tackling every single sub-scenario again. Don't worry, we'll be getting the Cliff's Notes version of everything. As a quick side note, the game does have measures in place to stop you from going to places that you're not supposed to. If we try to enter the Miasma Woods right now...
It's too thick! Press any deeper and it'll crush our lungs!
We'll not make it through these woods without some better plan.
Yep, so they cannot progress through the Miasma Woods until they are forced to. Yeah, there are a lot of failsafes in place like that for things like the Twilight Ruins, the Mithril Mines. Whenever you're not supposed to be there, the game makes sure that you cannot actually go there. Honestly, the most important reason why I'm here doing the Chapter 1 sub-scenarios again is to see the coolest piece of animation in the entire game. I guess real quick, I'll go ahead and do this.
You're on. Go then!
The little bitter batter. Bye-bye, Jackal.
What? Any that then
Something interesting to note. What if you were to try to interact with the magicians before acquiring the summoner job in New Game Plus? Oh, you already have it. You got my hopes up for nothing. Go on, then shoot! Yeah, if you already have the summons, they're not going to try and kill you again. Ah, the aroma of pervert. It still reeks in the air. The dragon, every new player's nightmare. Well, I'm going to do exactly what every single new player wants to do to you as soon as they meet you. This is for every single time you made me game over, you bastard! Oh shit, he has more than 9,999 HP. Oh, let's do it again. Serves you right.
What's the matter? Trouble sleeping?
Sir, do you remember this pendant? I've treasured it like a good luck charm since I was a child. Ever since the day you gave it to me.
That brings me back. I remember it well, child. I'm pleased you've held on to it all this while.
It gives me strength. In dark times, I would pray to it, talk to it, and the stone would lend me courage.
Keep it close and keep it safe. Someday it may serve you better still.
That dialogue interaction has a lot more context now after beating the game, doesn't it? Hey, Orthros. How many times have we killed you now? Not enough, apparently. Let's just go ahead and finish you off in one turn, yeah? Let's hope so. Yeah! Anya's hard carrying. Who needs Warriors of Light when you got her?
Any further, and this time, it'll be the crystal that breaks. I understand.
Let's test that theory, Aerie.
What do you mean?
What if you were to try and break the crystal this early on, before we even know anything about Aerie? Well, first things first, before you've even broken the little cracks and darkness on the crystal, if you don't mash enough X, and you just kind of let it go, it will fade out. You actually do have to break this shell before any real progress can be made. But let's go ahead and see what happens if we try to break this crystal.
Stop! That's it! I said stop! No! It's too much! It's going to break!
Did it work?
The Rite of Awakening was a great success!
Yeah, it's kind of underwhelming, but the game kind of forces you to stop immediately. But there are slight variations to that once you get into the loop. Right before you have access to breaking the crystals, there will be new dialogue, but I'll go over that when we get to it. Well, that's about everything for us here in Chapter 1, so let's go get jumped by Alternus. Chapter 2, One Day Beneath a Blue Sky. The reason why this chapter is called that is because Agnes and Olivia will one day meet again beneath a blue sky. Unfortunately, that day was cut extremely short. By Victor and Victoria, those two assholes. Damn you! If you try to enter Mount Fragmentum early, you get this cutscene.
We've no reason to come to such a place now. Let's begin in Florum. We'll gather information there.
Damn you, narrative! Restricting my exploration! You can watch as NPCs practice their runwaying. Is that the right term? Runwaying? Practicing for a runway, like a walk-off? You can see NPCs practicing for that for the Sacred Flower Festival. It's pretty cool. Hey, there's Fashionable again. Man, upon replaying the game, the terms fashionable, murger, and unacceptable actually show up a lot less frequently than I expected it to. I guess maybe just playing through the game many times over just all kind of blends together. Taking a small break from the game and replaying it for the series just kind of reminds me of surprisingly how little those lines are used, despite their iconic, you know,
For a spirit hair.
despite them being iconic in the fandom. I guess on the topic of Murgurgur, the actual real depiction of Murgurgur in Japanese text is more supposed to be India grumbling, like, you know, that kind of thing. But in the English direction for the voice actress, Cassandra Lee Morris, amazing work, by the way, great person. The direction they took Murgurgur was actually just saying Murgurgur. This is a little contentious in the community, whether or not the English or Japanese version of Murderger is better or not. Honestly, I don't really have any opinion either way. I think they're both pretty fitting to Edea. Her grumbling in the Japanese dub is pretty obvious that she's always kind of grumpy and has a bit of an attitude and doesn't like to wait. She's very impatient. And Murderger is just the fact it also fits her because, well, she's definitely one of on the kind of the weird kid spectrum. She would definitely be someone that says Murderger just to say Murderger. Kind of like how kids these days and their Lamaus and LOLs, you know. I think that they're still saying that. In terms of sub-scenarios, I'm actually going to wait a little bit before we tackle them directly. As much as I would love to just sit here and let you guys watch this cutscene again because it's one of my favorites, I do want to try and keep this video under 3 hours, so... No, we can't watch all the highlights. So, the ring a bell saying, Anya's wore sexy clothes, it was awesome, is always one of my favorite lines. Ah, casual murder. Victoria's favorite. I love that the sound effects and the voices keep playing during the skip the event. They're not voices, they're part of they're part of the music. You know, for how much I enjoy playing this game, there's always one segment that I dread once I reach it in every single playthrough. Why are you making me do this stupid dungeon again? Olivia, I don't really care that much about. But doing this damn dungeon is more depressing than Olivia's death. Anxiety. Anxiety's right. Hate the Twilight Ruins. So, we fight Victor and Victoria here. You have to survive for 3 turns. But question, what if we were to try and kill them here, and successfully kill them here? Well, let's find out, shall we?
I grow bored, Victor.
Then, shall we conclude?
Erase all but the water vector.
Yeah, so if you technically deplete their HP, they just leave. There's no new dialogue options or anything. Olivia still dies. It doesn't really change all that much. It would have been nice if there was kind of like it obviously didn't need to change all that much, but maybe like alternate dialogue, or hey, maybe even like a weird bad ending where you have to let Olivia die for the narrative to continue, and if you technically kill Victor and Victoria right there, it's considered a quote-unquote bad ending. I don't know, maybe. So, first things first, let's go take care of Einherja. The ambience of this game is really something. If I turn it up all the way, we just walk around this Witherwood area. Take a listen. The ambience gives these dungeons, especially the Witherwood here, like a sense of life, and I really like it. And I don't see the sound effects of this game getting praised enough, so I just wanted to go ahead and give it a quick shout out. Stupid blue chest. So why are we going after Einherja first? Well, we'll see once we have put her on the ground. So let's go ahead and do that.
With your father, face to face. No more intermediaries. Look at him, and you'll see it. What he seeks. I know.
I will. I swear it to you.
Good. That's good.
If you have not defeated Mephilia and Artemia, Einherja will not call out to her sisters as she's dying, as they aren't dead. I just wanted to go ahead and point that out because it's different from what we saw in our first go-around. Okay, next up is Artemia. I kind of wish the Orochi that she killed got a little bit more focus. I mean, we never get to see one in game, and that would have been really freaking cool. Maybe if it was like a super boss or I don't know, something like that. Would have been nice.
It's made of what?
It's made of what? Yes, drugs. Her first bow. Wow. She's used the bow, I think. No. Maybe? I actually don't know if I ever gave Agnes a bow in this playthrough. There you go, Agnes. You've now wielded a bow. Next is Mephilia, and obviously I have a bit of a grudge with this encounter ever since how it went in our playthrough, so let's kick her ass.
Now I've seen something more beautiful even than my sister. What are you? You, the boy there.
Me?
Inside you. I see it. It's there. It isn't yours. Another soul inside.
What do you suppose she was trying to say?
What she was trying to say, Tiz, is that you are technically not alive! Yay! Yeah, there are actually teasers of Tiz having a celestial soul within him this early on. Like, official teasers, not just, oh, well, maybe they were alluding to this. No, like, Mephilia is a very powerful magical user, and she communes with spirits all the time. I mean, she's a summoner. So her being able to see the souls of people around her is not that far-fetched. So she knows that his soul is not his own, and that it's someone else's. It's a pretty cool little hint. Unfortunately, it's not really talked about that much later on, and we also obtained Mephilia's reports, which I'll get to in a second, but first we need to deal with this jackass. Also, yeah, I've been cursing a lot more often in this video. Bro, it's episode, what, 98, 99? I don't know at this point. You guys have been with me this long, I think we can let down the the censorship a little bit. Even if this sub-scenario requires you waiting many days just to complete it, any sub-scenario that has Detective Ring-a-Bell in it, I'm all for.
One glance can tell you it doesn't fit. Clearly, the woman is fearless.
Or really dumb. Probably both. Idea is our own little dumb gremlin, though. So, we're free to make fun of her. Nah, she's not dumb. Who am I kidding? She'd kill me if I said that.
Since you're clear,
Speaking of killing, let's kick this guy's ass. So, I want to admit something. I was very careful with how I planned out the series and what I was going to do in each episode, and I have my Word document that has all of my notes on the other side of my monitor that I could look at while I'm playing this game. And I would skim through it before every episode and right at the end of every episode to make sure I was doing everything that I'd set out to do. However, somehow I missed reporting on the important files that show up in the D's journal during this chapter. Going to the notes page, you get Mephilia's memo and the red reports. You also get the sister's tale, but meh. These things, how did I not mention this stuff? I had it written down in bold on the episodes that we get them to read these notes. And yet, somehow, I forgot to. So, I won't be reading all 11 pages of Mephilia's memo and all 9 pages of Red's report, so I'll go ahead and give the Cliff's Notes versions of both of them now. And I guess while I'm at it, I'll go ahead and talk about the sister's tale. To give a brief summary of Mephilia's memo, it mostly shows that Mephilia gained the Summoner's Asterisk from being a protege of Sage Juliana, which makes sense because Conjurer utilizes invocations with summon magic, so of course Mephilia would learn from Sage. This page mostly showcases where you can obtain each summon. I knew this because I'd played the game multiple times, but if you are new and don't want to use a guide, go to this Mephilia's memo and it will tell you where to find each summon. Mephilia also mentions her beloved Suleiman, who basically goes and tries to find Susano for her while she goes and collects the other summons. However, unfortunately, Suleiman and his ship are lost, and they become the ghost ship that Barbarossa co-pilots, that we see in the Black Blade storyline. Mephilia is then sent off into the Florum Gardens, where, due to how the fairies and the effect of the gardens itself kind of make her go a little crazy, and then that's where we meet her. It basically shows that Mephilia was actually a fairly cunning and devoted student who wanted nothing more than to seek the power of the summons and police her sisters and her beloved. And that by being part of the Blood Rose Legion, she went a little crazy. You also get a little bit of information about each summon here, if you were interested. So, the red reports are the reports found in DeRosa's laboratory. Generally, what they showcase is that the infiltration of Florum started many years ago before the events of the game, where DeRosa infiltrated Florum roughly about 3 to 5 years before the events of the game, and began creating his Compound A and B from the Orochi and the sprites in Florum Gardens. He also talks about how Profiteur funded most of this operation, and that Kata aided in making the compound that would become the pheromone toxin. Basically, this also showcases in a few pages here that DeRosa helped bribe members of the Orthodoxy to basically create the Sacred Flower Festival as it is today by making it a popularity contest rather than a showcase of faith, to kind of drive out the idea of faith in the Orthodoxy. But there is this one page here that is actually written backwards. And so if you want to know what it says right here, I will speak it for you now. The Red Advent page says that Downer Knight refused to come aboard our plan to plunder Eternia. We'll have the Profiteur deal with him and strike the Orthodoxy treasury as planned. We'll incite the hostages to martyrdom in order to furnish a scapegoat. Kata will ready every compound he can, and the fools will all die where they stand. So basically, yeah, this is not anything new for us now, but it does confirm that this version of DeRosa was also scheming with Profiteur and Kata to bring down Eternia once they were done here in Florum. So, the Sisters' Tale is mostly just showcasing how each of the 3 Venus Sisters kind of relate to each other, and an important part of each of their story. For Artemia's segment, at one point, Brave, Mazur, Alternus, and Adia were all having a picnic when suddenly Adia was attacked by something. Alternus and Brave go to check out and see who it is, and find that it is Artemia, who is suffering from hunger after being gone and missing for a whole year. They bring her back to Eternia, but then we get to hear how Artemia got there in the first place. Einherja and Mephilia were both exceptional in their own practice, and Einherja was to leave and study with a very powerful swordsman for a whole year, and Mephilia was exceptional at magic and would leave for Juliana Woods to study with the sage for a whole year. She also found a young playboy man named Suleiman, and decided to sail off with him for a whole year instead. Artemia, bearing letters to discuss certain plans with each of her sisters, never got the chance to and was lured away by Frosties during the Eternian snow months for, again, a whole year. This comes to a head whenever Einherja and Mephilia come back to Eternia for a full year. Einherja chases away Suleiman on the Funky Francisca, and Artemia is found in the wild by Brave and Alternus. All 3 of them reunite, hone their skills together, become closer, and eventually join the Blood Rose Legion, where we are today. All this information is pretty cool, and I'm really mad at myself that I completely forgot to go over this during the actual playthrough, and only now remember to actually talk about it. I even read this stuff in bold, and I still just didn't do it. I guess I was pretty lazy that day. Yay, 2 crystals down. 18 more to go! Woo! Beloved Bonds. I think this chapter's name is pretty self-explanatory. It's talking about Tiz's bond with Egil and Till.
What on earth is
And
that?
also the party's bonds
Ship
together,
from
as this is at the point where their connections are at their lowest, and by the end of it, they are stronger than ever. Now it's time we meet the best character in the entire game once more. Hey, what's up, proprietress? Meanwhile, the Temple of Doom. Sorry, I just wanted to do that. I guess it wouldn't be the Temple of Doom, that's an Indiana Jones reference, and not, it would be like, what, the Fortress of Doom? The League of Doom? I don't know, I didn't watch a lot of those shows back then. I don't know if I ever made mention of it, but you can actually see a bunch of Shieldbearer soldiers on the ground right over by Eisen Bridge. Swordbearer shoulders, not so much because, well, we're on the other side of the entire bridge. This artwork gives you kind of a sense of scale, just how big this crag is, and that just gives even more credence to how powerful Lord Deroso and Sage Juliana are, because they were the ones who started a war that created this huge crag. Anyway, let's leave Stretton Goodman to his duties, and let's head to Heartschild.
Unwanted.
It's pretty funny to think that Ringabel survived a solo encounter with Kikyo. Man is unkillable. I still don't know why they give you the pirate sub-scenario first, if it's like 3rd on the Black Blades list of jobs on the little wheel thing. It's really weird. It seems like the second in command of the Black Blades would be the second to last one you get in terms of job order, but no, he's the first in terms of which one comes available. So, in playing through the entire game again and wanting to do every single sub-scenario again, guess what that means? I have to do the Praline sub-scenario, which means I get to go all over the world again! Yay! I get to go through the Miasma Woods twice more! Woo! I hate you, Praline.
Oh.
I hate you! I'm about to go insane! Finally, we're done. Just let me kill her. Please, let me kill her. Burn! Yes, burn! Yes, the witch is dead! The witch is dead! Yeah! In other news, child labor! Woo! Yay? I don't know, I don't like the Mithril Mines very much, so this isn't really that much of a yay.
14 more to
Now,
fall.
I don't know if I'm qualified to talk about child slavery, but these kids look a little similar to me. Are we sure these are different children, or perhaps there's some kind of secret cloning facility somewhere? Who knows? I'm not going to debate the ethics of whether or not clones should be put into slavery. I think that's a little bit above my pay grade, which is nothing right now. Now, Starkford is a little interesting. At this point in time, you can go and defeat Kata, but I think I'm gonna hold off on that. Also, one interesting thing to note is that on your first visit here, the main central gate that would lead you to the top of Starkford is closed off, which means you can't go kill Kami Izumi before you're intended to. So, again, more restriction, woo! Thank you, narrative. It's funny that even if you beat Praline, these guys just don't recognize you at all, despite the fact that we've been on the front lines fighting Praline. 0 out of 10 game, would not recommend. Guards do not recognize you. Nah, I'm not that evil. Though, I do want to go ahead and point out that if you try to enter the Sword Bearer's side of Eisen Bridge, this happens.
Who are you? Hey, get over here!
Oh no! They've seen us! We must flee!
I disagree with you on that, there, Agnes. I think we could take him. You know, like, there's only a few 10,000 or so. I think that we could probably just switch over to Vampire, just Firestorm spam. I think it would work. Whatever. We've got a kid to take care of and good old Egil, so we should probably worry about his safety for some reason. Well, I shouldn't put child protection under my resume because, boy, am I bad at it. Case in point. You know, I don't really want to go into it too much because I'll probably be discussing it in the next episode, but something I really do wish that we got a little bit more of is I wish we got to interact with the other two remaining Vestals, the Fire and Earth Vestal. Earth Vestal, I kind of understand why we can't interact with her, but at least the Fire Vestal. I mean, she died fairly recently. I just wish that even if we didn't interact with her in this world, maybe in another one we did. Though, recently, there was actually a few interviews and books released regarding Bravely Default's 10th anniversary that were dropped that actually discussed that Agnes was originally going to be the Fire Vestal. I don't think there's any surviving concept art or like literal game information that depicts this, which means that this was a very, very early change. I don't think that really would have changed all that much in terms of the narrative if Agnes was the Fire Vestal instead of the Wind Vestal. It just might have changed in the order in which we did things, or they might have just moved the Wind Crystal over to Eisenberg and moved the Fire Crystal over to Ansheim. Either way, though, it's pretty interesting, and I wish that we had gotten to interact with the other Vestals. What's the matter, boy? Can't stand walking on some hot coals?
Oh no!
This kind of cutscene with like the dynamic camera shots and the moving areas and character models, this doesn't happen again in this game, which is really strange. Thankfully, in the sequel, there are a lot more of these, but I guess it was either just too costly, or took too long to make, or they just didn't really have any ideas. I kind of wish the finale of the game had one of these, but it's really not that big of a deal. Man, Mike Wazowski, you really let yourself go. Where'd your legs? Xemnas, I mean, Carl is sick, you say. Let us away. I like how they just clipped his model through the bed so it looks like he's sleeping, but he's probably just standing still. They just kind of curved it. I feel much better since you came to visit me. Thank you. I don't think I ever showed that dialogue piece. A little bit of a whiplash there, making fun of him and then saying how much I like that piece of dialogue. Anyway, back to Eisenberg. Hi, honey, I'm home.
Hey, you guys! You can't.
Not you, Egil. I'm not here for you. Before we bestow a child upon the innkeep, we must first consult the king. Because, of course we do. Hello, sir. That's right, I have to wait till daytime. Hello, your majesty. Now, first up on the list, I know we dealt with Praline first, but I actually do want to go kind of in opposite order with these Black Blades as well. I want to take down Kami Izumi first and foremost, as there are a few deviations when it comes to the text in the other sub-scenarios if you take him down first. So, I'll see you there. Yes, very sad. What happens if Kami Izumi is the first, like, real Black Blade to go down after a fight? A good example of this question is Kata. At the end of the Kata battle, Kami Izumi comes in and finishes the job after Kata fakes his death. But if Kami Izumi isn't around, what happens? Let's find out. Kata goes down normally, as he would if you were to defeat him in a regular playthrough, but if we leave Starkfort, what happens? Let's go ahead and use a teleport stone. We can just leave the building and the area entirely. And Nothing happens! He's actually dead. Kamiizumi only gets the opportunity to kill him if he is alive. Otherwise, you can either make the argument that we just killed him much better, I guess is the better way of putting it. He's officially dead if by our hand, or he successfully fakes his death and goes into hiding. Who knows? Doesn't really matter though. His two business partners are both dead by this point anyways, so it's not really that big of a deal. Next on the list though, we're going to go to deal with Kikyo, as Barbarossa's closer to Grand Ship, and that's where we ultimately are heading, so we'll deal with him last. Poke, poke, poke. Yes, I know you're a dangerous assassin. Come on, wake up. Wake up. It's time to die. Come on, wake up. Come on. Come on, Kikyo. You can do it. Just 1 foot at a time. Come on. Poke. There we go. Yay. Now you die. Before heading to Grand Ship, let's take a little detour up north to Barbarossa's Funky Francisca. So Barbarossa will have a little bit of extra dialogue, or I guess different dialogue, if you defeat Kamiizumi first.
Is he alive?
Close! The real captain.
So,
Welcome to our pirate. I am...
the Black Blades?
You must be the wind vessel.
What?
How do you know of him?
How could I not know of the brave souls who defeated the Swordmaster Kamiizumi, my commander? I have looked forward to meeting you in battle one day. I leave the helm to you, me matey.
Yeah, if you had not beaten Kamiizumi beforehand, he's just like, well, I understand everything that's going on during the war because I'm second in command of the Black Blades. I know who you are. But in this case, your tales of defeating Kamiizumi have spread so fast in the Black Blades that he already knows exactly who you are, which, that's fair. I think the Black Blades would want to know who took down their leading commander. But sorry, Barbarossa, old buddy, you're gonna have to go down. Mephilia, someday I'll be at your side once more. Yeah, it's unfortunate to think that Suleiman never got to meet Mephilia again, as he's perished and is tied to the ship now. Hey, Proprietress, the best character in this game.
You can help yourself to anything else.
Ooh, money, food. This is a really cool shot. I was tempted to use it in a thumbnail, but I thought it was too similar to one I had used previously, so I decided not to. I just realized something. I was watching Anya's walk, and the dress, like, there's clipping on the dress. I don't know if it's like her waistline or something that's clipping through, but there's something clipping there. 0 out of 10 game once again. There's clipping issues, you know? Nah, it's not that big of a deal. Hey guys, guess what? We get to go back to Kaldisla! More backtracking! Woo! Yeah, that's definitely something, like, if you're going through this game at a fast rate, you're gonna feel the backtrack kind of kicking you in the butt there. Thankfully, if you're going through the game normally, it doesn't feel that tiring to constantly be going from A to B, A to B, A to B. But I understand those who either were pacing the narrative weird, where they did it all back to back to back, or just were going super fast, because this game definitely reuses a lot of its areas often without adding anything new to it. This dungeon saved me a lot during the true ending, so I guess I'll go ahead and tell the story right now. In my first playthrough, I got to the true ending right before you fight Eri, and I had autosave on, which meant that as soon as I entered the Holy Pillar and was on Grand Ship, I was locked to Grand Ship. You can't leave the air until you have defeated Eri, and you can't reload your save if you have autosaved on because you've entered a new area once you've gone into Grand Ship. So, I was stuck on Grand Ship, which isn't really that big of a deal. Just beat Eri and you can leave. The problem is that my team and my strategies were so bad that I was basically hobbling through every single encounter, and I just hoped that I would get lucky on a lot of fights before this point to win them, because I didn't want to level grind, and I didn't want to job level grind either. I had leveled maybe 1 or 2 jobs to maximum on every single character. None of my support abilities, none of the support slots on any of my characters were filled out at all. So like I was basically fighting with just gear alone, and that's definitely not enough. So basically my setup was trash. And so I got to the Aerie fight and I couldn't win. I moved it over to easy mode. I couldn't win. I'd get to phase 2, but I could not live any of her attacks, and I was doing maybe 1,200 damage per hit. Because I had like a Black Mage and a Spell Fencer, but none of them were doing any damage because I just didn't have anything. So I was stuck. I didn't know what to do. I thought I had basically just soft-blocked my file because I had no way of getting out of Grand Ship, and I couldn't beat Aerie even on the easiest difficulty, even when I was playing as safe as I could. But the engine room exists, and even at that point, you can go back onto the bridge and go into the engine room and fight these enemies to get EXP and JP and Peeg. So I spent a good few hours in here fighting enemies to level up, get job levels, and get Peeg so I could buy some of the good spells and abilities that are in Grand Ship's shops at the final few chapters. This area saved my file, because otherwise I would have had to restart from the very beginning. And from that point onward, I remembered to never turn on autosave because it's an evil, evil little thing, and I also learned that I should probably read how this game's systems work before trying to make any real strategy. I pretty much replayed the game immediately after I finished it my first go-around, and it went much better. I had a much easier time playing through the beginning parts of the game, and by the time I got to Aerie on my second playthrough, I was playing on hard mode and I kicked her butt because I understood how to play the game and when to grind out characters and what jobs to level when. It was a much better experience. But yeah, so every single time I'm in this dungeon, I just remind myself of, oh yeah, I spent like 8 hours in here after it was like a school day or something. I just came home, grabbed my 3DS, and did nothing but sit in the engine room, running in circles with auto battle on while I did homework and ate dinner or something. And it was like 6 to 8 hours of me just running in circles, getting to like level 80 and having like 7 or 8 jobs maxed out on everyone. These enemies are not the greatest enemies to level grind on, so it took a while before everything was fully leveled up. I didn't have many Nerende Village items either at that point. I think I had maybe maxed out the weapons shop, and I think I'd grabbed like the onion shirt for Tiz or something. Like, I didn't have a lot, so it was quite the adventure, that's for sure. And it wasn't long before we have access to Grand Ship now. Yes! I'm so glad we do, because, man, do I hate walking around this world map. Especially for the Praline storyline. Ain't that the truth? Exactly, ain't that the truth? Before we head over to Eternia to begin Chapter 4, I need to make a correction to something. I misspoke when I was talking about certain summons. All you need to do in order to get Susanoo, the 6th and final summon of the Summoner's lineup, is to have beaten Captain Barbarossa and have obtained Grand Ship. You can get it all the way back here in Chapter 3. I want to thank the user Patrick Latham 3897 for bringing this to my attention. I'm sorry if I mispronounced anything, but I actually did not know this, and I am glad that they brought it to my attention. But with that said, let's go ahead and head over to Eternia. Black and White is the name of this chapter, and it's pretty simple to understand why. Both Edea and Brave see the world and its inhabitants in 2 sections, black or white. And this chapter is a battle of that ideology between them, and deciding whether or not what they are both doing is vote is either black or white. Oh, hey, I'm still silenced and hurt. Yeah, that's fine. Honestly, similar to Chapter 3, I don't really have a lot to talk about in Chapter 4. I surprisingly covered a lot of what I intended to cover in the main playthrough, so this will be mostly just kind of covering potential Cliff's Notes and whatnot. Eternia really doesn't get anything interesting until Chapter 5 and onward with the Gossiper and the whole Kami-Izumi Way of the Sword stuff. So, honestly, this will be probably the most barren segment of this video, and that's not at the fault of New Game Plus. That's just honestly the fault of me being pretty diligent with this area and chapter. Which, honestly, makes sense. This is probably my favorite chapter in the game, so either that or Chapter 7, but I mean, I'm glad that I did this chapter justice, at least. Honestly, seeing the sights here in Gravemark Village again just really showcase just how desperate Brave was to oust the Orthodoxy after what it did to his hometown. I mean, just look at the art in this map. Just with this shot alone, there are so many graves. This is definitely where the game starts to really showcase just how corrupt the Orthodoxy truly was, and honestly still is. And, I don't know, this shot and the overlooking shot of Everlast Tower and whatnot is always one that's stuck with me. But we're not here to reminisce for too long, as we need to head over to Central Command to finish up this chapter. We won't let you monologue this time, Victor. We're going to beat you before Victoria can get out of the pod. Never mind. Even trying to stop his speech beforehand, Victoria's just like, oh, yeah, no, I'm just going to be here. Why not? I also switched Lydia over to her Ninja Swordmaster setup so that we can do some crazy damage to Victor and Victoria. Now, there is actually something I want to do here, so I need to be pretty careful with this battle. Trying my absolute best to make sure that they are both around the same HP.
Victor, where are you?
Right here, by your side.
I just wanted to say, I really hate you. You wouldn't let me die, though I suffered so. But now, finally, I'm free of this pain.
No, I will not let you go. If I'm to die, my soul, it shall join you.
Fine. I suppose there's no getting rid of you.
Thank you, Victoria. Sweet Victoria.
Yeah, there is actually special dialogue if you kill Victor and Victoria together. I personally want to thank Alice Carrillo 477, again, sorry for mispronunciation if I did so, for giving me this information. Again, this is something that surprisingly went over my head after the many playthroughs I've done. I guess I've always just taken one of them down at a time without ever considering to take them down at the same time. So, yeah, thank you for this information. I learned something new today. So that's pretty cool. We get to see a little bit more character development between Victor and Victoria and how their relationship is, even if it's a little toxic. Well, not a little toxic, it's very toxic. I'm gonna be frank here. Whenever I first saw these scenes with Brave and Lord De Rosso, I originally thought that the game was leading towards Lord De Rosso being the big bad of the narrative, which might be what they're going for. My original theory was Lord De Rosso was an immortal vampire that had lived for over a few thousand years and had been orchestrating the events and leading both the Orthodoxy and the Duchy behind the scenes, kind of orchestrating them in a way that they would create this conflict that revolves around the crystals just so that he can control them somehow. That was my idea, and obviously that idea was completely struck down as soon as we got into the vampire quest line. But I didn't really have my full suspicions of Eri at that point. That really started with, that really kicked off once we entered Chapter 5. But I had a few light suspicions, mostly with Olivia not recognizing Eri. But I did think Lord De Rosa was going to be the big bad in my first playthrough. Which, honestly, having the context of the game is pretty silly, especially because he becomes one of our biggest allies against the big bad of the game. Originally in that cutscene, I thought that the sage blew himself up, but in reality, he just leaves. He blows up the cage and then just disappears. I actually did think on my first playthrough that he just blew himself up, and that was the end of the sage. I mean, you can't find him anywhere else after this point. He isn't at the Needleworks. He's just gone. Going on the whole Lord De Rosa might have been the big bad theory that I had on my first run through the game, Sage Juliana kind of fit into that. I feel like, I kind of called that those two, that Lord De Rosa and Sage, had a long-time rivalry, but I originally thought that Sage Juliana was, like, the ultimate, opposition to Lord De Rosa, and that's why he was on the Council of Six and why he let the Warriors of Light out. My initial idea was that Sage Juliana had infiltrated the Council of Six because he heard that Lord De Rosa was in charge of it, and basically planted the seeds of his destruction from inside of the duchy. That was my initial thoughts while running through this dungeon and trying to piece together the narrative, because I thought I had figured it out. But no, while I think that's a pretty cool story, it definitely was nowhere near the actual mark. Nowhere near it. And we're here up on the 49th floor. Imagine if you actually had to climb up all 49 floors of Central Command. This dungeon that I'm already kind of lukewarm towards would have become easily my least favorite one. But they thought ahead, thankfully. They're like, we know that someone from the complete opposite side of the world will totally hate us if we make this dungeon 50 floors. So let's not do that. And I thank Square for that. Brave, sorry buddy, but you aren't interesting enough to have your own segment, so you're gonna have to go down. Hey, Everlast Tower! This dungeon is pretty cool. I actually like this dungeon quite a bit. Out of the 4 temple dungeons in this game, this one's definitely better than the Underflow. And the Water Temple isn't really a dungeon, so I can't really count that, can I? And the Wind Temple's pretty standard, so yeah, I guess Everlast Tower doesn't really have a lot of competition, really. I was always a pretty big fan of the lore dumps here in the Temple of Earth, as it's finally what gives you context to why the Eternians were doing what they're doing, and how their entire duchy and conquest against Crystalism and the Orthodox began. I kind of wish that all of this information was kind of teased at earlier in the game. The best you get is the Red Advent reports, which is whenever De Rosa's speaking backwards in his diary. But even then, that's really only talking about De Rosa staging a coup, not really the Eternians staging a coup and how that went down. If this information was kind of sprinkled throughout the first 3 other chapters, maybe Brave would be a little bit more of an interesting villain, because as it stands, in his first impression is more of he's just an older, grumpier Edea who has a lot of people backing him. And while that might be exactly what they were going for, it, in my opinion, doesn't really make for an interesting villain. He just seems like he's stubborn for no reason, and if he just would sit and talk, it might actually, things might actually get done. But no, a lot has to happen, and the main protagonists need to stay ignorant for the entire game. so that the little fairy can win. Yay! Okay, let's go kill a vampire. Well, I guess he's technically not a vampire, but you know what I mean. But of course, before we can do that, we have to go kill the dragons again! Yay! Now, with the Vampire's Castle, this is when New Game Plus starts to get a little bit interesting because you can start getting some really good gear again. Stuff like Hermes shoes, the Blood Blade, Soul of the Masa, things that normally you could only find in treasure chests. Or stealing from bosses in Chapter 7. So being able to redo this dungeon and grab all of that loot is quite useful. Go ahead and do that. In terms of like the lore and whatnot, if you didn't read the paintings the first time around, go ahead and do so, but otherwise, if you know the lore already, then there's no reason to really do that. So I'm just gonna go around, grab all the loot, and move on. Hey, what's up, Lester? I can call you Lester, though, right? I mean, I've kicked your butt, like, what, 6 times now? I think I've earned that right.
Yes, perhaps it is.
Rule number 1 of RPGs, don't mash text. Oh, we have access to seeing the final painting? Nah! We've seen that, what, 5 or 6 times now? We already know what the secret is behind it. Anyways, let's go ahead and head over to the Holy Pillar. Funny thing about Alternus' design, you can actually see that he has Ring a Bell's intro animation, another little nod that they're the same person. But what's this? I'm seeing double here, except it's not Ring a Bell in the Dark Knight armor, it's Tiz. Anyway, we're gonna give Alternus Dim a nice taste of his own medicine here.
Time to wake up.
No, Dad, I won't. I always got woken up by the, okay, it's time to wake up, time to go to school. Brings back some old memories. Anyway, we have made it to Chapter 5, the beginning of the loop, and I think this is a perfect place to end off for today. We saw a lot, and I got to kind of rectify some problems that I had with the series, and some things that I missed, and some things that I didn't even know about while making the series. I got to show off. I'm pretty proud of that. Next time on Bravely Default, we are going to see what else the loop segment of this game has to offer for us, including some pretty interesting lore, in a theory by me that is regarding the harrowing and even the ending of the game. And we'll also be seeing some features that I'm sure anyone who knows the ending of this game and saw the finale against Ouroboros surely missed when I was going through that encounter. So, with that said, I'll see you soon.